It's time for another edition of Coach's Corner with women's basketball coach Matilda Mossman. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Coach's Corner with head coach Matilda Mossman, University of Tulsa women's basketball. And coach, you were so close to having a 2-0 week, and so close, really, you go back to the Temple game, to being 3-0.
Yeah, we've had some really close games lately. The good news is we feel like we're making progress. In the Temple game, SMU game, and the Houston game, we shot the ball really well, and we scored. You know, we had struggled earlier in the season just to score points. And against SMU, we scored 70 points, and then against Houston, we scored 83 points. I mean, we haven't done that in a while. So, you know, unfortunately, two of the times we score 70 or more, we lose, and we lose the Temple game by 1 and score 77 points, and then lose to SMU by 4 and score in the 70s. So I do feel like we're getting better, particularly on the offensive end.
Yeah, and certainly in the SMU game, you played, a really good 25, 30 minutes almost before they made the big rally at the end. Yeah,
we were the first 25 minutes, we played really well, and we got out to a 15-point lead in the third quarter, and it appeared that we were about to blow the thing open. We had held Mackenzie Adams, their leading scorer, to 9 first-half points, and then she got on a little bit of a roll in the third quarter, and then she really got on a roll in the fourth quarter and finished with 28. And Mackenzie tends to do that against Tulsa for whatever reason. She always has her best games against us. But we just couldn't stop their offensive momentum in the second half. Mackenzie was scoring, she was getting to the rim, she was getting to the free throw line. Then Janisha Cash, their freshman, was posting us up on the block, and they were able to put a 6'6" girl in, a 6'4" girl in, and then Cash is 6'1". And so Cash is now playing the 3. And we couldn't match up with that size. Our post player is 6'2", guarding a 6'6". Our 4 players 5'8", guarding a 6'4", and then our 3 players 5'11", guarding a 6'1". And so they just kept taking turns rotating those guys in on the block and posting us up. And even when we would switch people, they would recognize that and send that guy in, so they had a mismatch. And so there was very little we could do, and then we tried to go zone a little bit, and now Mackenzie's making threes, and their other guards are making threes. So we just got into a bind in that second half and couldn't stop them defensively.
Yeah, and with that mismatch with the height, and that doesn't say everything about rebounding, but they really crashed the offensive glass and got you with 19 offensive rebounds. They
did. They outscored. They had 14 more rebounds than we did in the game, and 19 of them were offensive. And we had held them to, I think, 5 or 6 offensive rebounds in the first half. So it was all about that second half. And then you throw in the fact they shot 31 free throws and we shot 16. I mean, the game's pretty even. We score more field goals, we make more threes, but then we only get 13 points at the line and they get 21 points at the line. And it's, I laugh and say our free throw defense isn't very good.
Morgan Brady played well for you in that game.
She did, particularly in the first half. She scored all 16 of her points in the first half, and she was giving us a real boost. She was getting to the rim. She made 3 threes in that game. Had to play the entire 40 minutes because we had her guarding Mackenzie in that first half, and she held Mackenzie to 9. And then in the second half, for whatever reason, there was some switching going on, and in transition, Mackenzie, we kept getting different people matched up against Mackenzie, and that's the whole reason Morgan was in the game, to stop Mackenzie, but Mackenzie did a lot of her scoring when Morgan wasn't guarding her.
Yeah, and it had to be frustrating, Coach, during this losing streak that you've had, so many close losses. A couple of games that kind of got out of hand, and even the UConn game was 18, and that was a great performance. Right. So frustrating for you, I'm sure, and your coaching staff to be that close and unable to come up with the W until the Houston game.
Yeah, I think this team has struggled with adversity. Really the only game that wasn't close was Tulane. We did not play very well at their place, did not shoot very well. We had gone to UConn and hit like 11 threes. We were like 11 for 23 and, played pretty well. And then we go straight down to New Orleans and play on a Sunday, and now we go 2 for 23 from 3. And so, when you struggle offensively like that, it makes it hard. but we had been in all the other games. There had been games that we had led and then didn't end up winning. But I felt like Temple, SMU, I felt like we were making progress. We still hadn't defended very well, but we were scoring, and you know that's a lot of the battle, especially mentally. So we're scoring better. We have chances, we have leads, and then adversity hits, and we can't hang on. But in the Houston game, we had a great first quarter. Just absolutely played lights out in the first quarter. Really shot it well. And then they came back on us in the fourth quarter. All of a sudden they start knocking down threes, and they start going to the free throw line, and it's kind of oh no, here we go again. Yeah. But our kids really fought through it, and that's where I felt like we've made the biggest strides in our ability to not handle adversity once in that Houston game, but handle it 2 or 3 times and still come out with the win.
Well, you've had some troubles with starts in ball games, and this was totally different than that. You shot, 58, 59% from the field in that first quarter. So what were you doing well? Well,
I think we were just attacking. In that Houston game, we shot, like you said, 59%. We outscored them 27-12. We get out to an 18-point lead by the end of the first quarter, and our guys were just attacking, and when Erica Wakefield shoots 60%, Shug Dixon shoots 59%, Crystal Polk shoots 56%. I mean, that's really good offense when you shoot 50 or 47% for the game, and then we've got 4 people in double figures, and for the first time in a long time, Shug gets in the 20s, and people around her are scoring, so we're able to win. In some other games, Shug's scoring in the 20s, but people around her aren't scoring. And so it's hard to win when you've only got one guy doing the scoring. So against Houston, now we got 4 people in double figures. We're shooting a great percentage. We're getting to the free throw line. We shot the same number of free throws as Houston. We just happened to make a lot more than they did.
Yeah, and even though you got out-rebounded, you were much more competitive on the rebounding side against Houston as you were compared to the SMU game.
We were. I mean, we gave up 14 offensive rebounds to Houston, but they've got some really good athletes, and they were just jumping up over us. And we're not a good box-out team. I mean, as much as we emphasize it and work on it, that's still not a mentality for us, and that's something that we have to continue to work on. But again, even though we weren't rebounding well, we were able to get some stops and able to go finish at the other end.
29 points for Shug Dixon to lead the way, 20 points for Erica Wakefield, as Coach mentioned, 4 players in double figures. Just got to feel awfully good about the overall balance, and as you mentioned, shooting the ball. So many times you've said to me, we've got to make shots, and so now you're making some.
Yeah, and scoring points. We scored 83 points, and I think we've scored in the 80s maybe 3 times this year, and I'm pretty sure every time we score in the 80s, we win. So it's about continuing to move the ball offensively, getting post touches, which we did with Crystal and with Kendria and Elliott. Kendria only played 10 minutes, and she's still struggling with that knee a little bit, but she makes her only field goal. And but we got a lot of inside-outside stuff. We got the ball side to side, and we created good rhythm shots for ourselves.
So the Golden Hurricane with the win over Houston, and we'll talk about building momentum for the week coming up. There's the midweek bye for the Hurricane. We'll talk about what's coming up in just a moment on Coach's Corner.
Power is excitement, energy, an unrelenting spirit. Its success is realized on the court, and its passion is felt in the hearts of players, coaches, and fans. And it all comes together in a conference known as the American Power for Life.
We're back on Coach's Corner with head coach Matilda Mossman. And Coach, you have the midweek bye. How do you use that time?
Well, just mainly to A, get caught up academically, and B, just rest some of these nagging injuries we have. Kendria still has that deep bone bruise in her knee, and then Alexa's still walking around in a boot because she has a stress fracture, and just some little things here and there. Morgan's knees are bothering her. Erica's knees are hurting. We got this quad sore and this hamstring sore. So, we had Sunday and Monday off just to recover a little bit mentally more than anything. And so we'll use this time now to not only extra preparation for Cincinnati, but really it's preparation time for the rest of the season, because you've got Cincinnati, and then we come back on Tuesday and have East Carolina, and then we have a Saturday game with Memphis, at Memphis, and then have Wichita State 3 days later. So actually 2 days later, and then that finishes up the season, and then head to the conference tournament up in Uncasville, Connecticut.
Yeah, so obviously it gets really busy after this week, and it's nothing but basketball the rest of the way, starting, of course, on Saturday with the game at Cincinnati. Now, you beat Cincinnati by 13 at home, and they're an improved program, though.
They are. They're in the top 5 in the league right now. In that game, Anna Owens was their leading scorer coming in, and she's a guard that we've faced before, and I think that was Morgan Brady's first start of the year, and she was sent in simply to stop Anna Owens. And Morgan, not only did she stop Anna, she held her to 10, but Morgan also scored 14 in that game. So I think that was her career high at that time, and just did a great job. And so that's a game where we hit a few more free throws than they did. We went 9 for 16 from 3, which is always good. Shot 40% for the game, and made free throws. So and then held them to 51 points, which was a big deal.
And certainly you want to replicate that on the road. It's not easy, but can you build a little momentum from what happened this past weekend against Houston and use that next week?
I hope so. We're looking at Temple, SMU, Houston. Even though those first 2 were losses, we really feel like we were gaining momentum. We felt like we were headed in the right direction. So hopefully now we can take that win now against Houston and use that for even more motivation.
All right, Coach, let's go do it. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Hurricane on Saturday in Cincinnati for their next game, and we'll talk about that game next week on Coach's Corner. So long, everybody.